All right, we're live.
The world isn't ready.
You want to tweet it out? What do we do?
Why don't we? Are you recording too, or is it just going live?
I think it records as you go.
All right, cool. So why don't we just go through it all, and then I'll post the recorded vid on Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because it shows. Yeah, it shows the link. You see the link? Are you using Google Hangouts? Obviously,
Yeah,
you are.
I'm on
Yeah,
Twitter.
you see the. Do you see the link?
No, where do I see that? Are you posting in the chat?
Maybe only I can see it in the lower right. It shows links.
Oh yeah, and I don't see.
It shows the YouTube link.
Nope, must be for the upper echelons only.
Okay, but all right, whatever. Let's assume it's being recorded.
Yeah. So, there you go, dude. Now you have much better res too. Everything's coming in clear. I see Monero Talk on the whiteboard.
Nice.
With the Chowbunga man.
Yeah. What's your Twitter?
I think it's Bkunzig. Just BKUNZIG.
KUNZIG.
I should probably change my name to like something anonymous.
Yeah, we're not doing our OPSEC isn't too good.
I know. I have so many Bcashers looking to chop my head off. It's crazy.
All right. Well, if anybody can see, those are our Twitter handles.
Put my address next to it. So, dude, you saw that video I sent you, right?
Yeah, no. But first, the Elon Musk thing. Yeah, what is that all about?
I only caught pieces of it on Yahoo News, so who knows what's really happening. But all I saw was Elon called the guy a pedo after, I guess, maybe that guy was saying it was a publicity stunt, that the submarine was never really a viable option.
So then he's just like, you're a pedophile?
Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah.
Okay.
You like child pee-pee, you know? Like, it's like...
That doesn't seem like an Elon Musk move.
Well, he apologized for it. He's been backtracking all day.
I don't understand why that whole thing has been like a clusterfuck from the get-go.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like everyone attacked him for trying to help, and then he just flipped out on somebody.
Twitter's weird, man, because like now everything's happening publicly. Like it just wouldn't blow up that way without Twitter, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I'm loving every second of it.
But the regulation, episode 1.
Oh, regulations. So, going back to, what was that, early last week?
Yeah.
Or was that 2 weeks ago already?
I think that was 2 weeks ago. We tried to do our first episode, but failed.
Right.
Utterly.
Things in crypto happen so fast, I've lost track of time. If it was like 3 days ago, it feels like 3 months ago.
I know. Well, it feels like time is flying by, right?
I can't.
It's making time go by faster for me.
Yeah. I literally last year was a blur.
Yeah, I just think in terms of like when's the next like bull run or whenever, like
bull and bear season.
It's, you just ignore like last August to this August flew by for me.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's literally because of crypto.
Absolutely. You're watching. You know what? One of the fundamental problems was for me last year is I spent so much time price watching instead of spending that time learning about the fundamentals. I've tried so hard now to make my friends as they jumped in, like Hervey, who was buying Substratum, that idiot.
Yeah,
you know, I tried to push everyone to learn more about it. But
yeah, I mean, well, I was even trying to push you into that
at
the time, but I ended up getting sucked down your wormhole instead of sucking you down mine.
Yeah,
I mean, it was pretty hard not to get caught up in the price.
Yeah. Up 30%, down 30%.
Yeah.
It was just every 2 days.
It was just fun.
Yeah, that was wild. Well, we'll see. The next bull run might. Alan Silbert was on Twitter on CNBC today saying that the bottom is in. He feels confident about it. So
who is that? Oh, the Silbert brother?
Yeah, the Silbert brother.
What is he? What's his
Oh, it might have been Barry Silbert. Yeah, it was Barry Silbert.
Oh, Barry Silbert. Okay. Because, I think his brother's in the crypto world space too, right?
Yeah, Alan I follow on Twitter. He's really good. Barry just kind of tweets whenever he wants to get philosophical or promote Ethereum Classic for some reason.
And Barry's the one that started GBTC, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Which, I'm surprised a lot of people are into. And I don't know why. It's like you're jumping through the same ropes to get to I guess what's essentially like, what is GBTC? It's
Well, I
shares.
mean, I understand the reason why it's not. I don't see why anybody like me or you would use it, but I guess the idea is it's an exchange fund, right? So then anybody
Yeah, I guess
that
if you're worried about custodianship of your coins, it's easier.
right. So you could like put your retirement money essentially right through your 401ks or whatever. You could. It's a fund that you could choose as an option, right? I think. I mean, I think that's the only reason why I see people using it.
Yeah, and I haven't looked too far into it. I read some bad things about it like a year ago and never looked back.
And it's a lot more than one Bitcoin, right? Is the way it works, or
it's less than one. It
oh,
used to be
less,
100th of a Bitcoin, but I think they changed that, or it used to be 1/10 of a Bitcoin. Now it's 100th. I'm not sure how they changed it, but
it's a security. It's not Bitcoin. So then
and we don't recommend it on this channel.
But I mean, I guess it will become obsolete once these ETFs are launched.
Absolutely.
Or I mean, those will compete against it, and
but once it's actually if it's settled in actual Bitcoin, though, I think that's the entire that's the whole that's the benefit of having an ETF that's not just settled in cash. It's actually they have to take custodianship of the Bitcoin, right? Where GBTC is correlated to the price of Bitcoin, and they don't actually own the Bitcoin.
Right, that's what allowed them to launch.
Right, exactly. Which doesn't help the Bitcoin market at all. It's just literally, a way to, I guess, leverage some cash that normally wouldn't be thrown in on a Bitcoin exchange.
Right, that wouldn't be able to get in otherwise.
Right.
But anybody that actually has cash that can buy Bitcoin, I mean, you'd have to be a complete fool to buy GBTC versus actually just buying Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting back on track, though, to the regulations, 2 weeks ago, what was he basically saying? I mean, I forget already because now.
Well, 2 weeks ago was when the Secret Service, basically, the guy from the Secret Service testified.
Right. And they said that it wasn't. What struck me as odd, it was cool that he wasn't talking about banning it specifically, just saying, they have to monitor the on-ramps. But what was interesting to me was that other guy that spoke, I got to look up his name. He was saying how it's not impossible. Like, he's not convinced that it's not entirely impossible to break down the chain, and where they could actually trace a good amount of it, even on Monero, say. He didn't mention Monero specifically, but he's definitely of the notion that these coins that focus on anonymity are not nearly as secure as they would set out to have people believe.
Right, yeah, that was an interesting take. Yeah, so the whole thing was about regulation, how they're worried about anonymous coins. But yeah, he was kind of alluding to the fact like, well, it's just kind of difficult for us to track these. Right. Not that it's impossible. But I mean, I think that's kind of bullshit, right? I mean, how are they? They could track the in-ramps, the on-ramps, and the off-ramps, but nobody's tracking transactions.
I think the biggest telltale is that no ring has been busted, no underground, whether it's a sex trafficking ring, like we're always reading about these Bitcoin rings getting busted, and you never hear that with Monero. I don't know if Zcash has had anyone, but no one's really using Zcash anonymously anyway, so that would be the biggest blow, I think, is if that.
Yeah, they didn't mention Monero by name, or I don't think they really mentioned any coins by name during that testimony. They just said anonymous or anonymity enhanced cryptocurrencies.
Which, of course, Monero is the primary one.
Right. So I guess you're basically talking about Monero at that point. But it's just kind of interesting that this is really coming to a head now, this whole regulation thing. Like the war has really begun, I feel like, against anonymous crypto. Yeah,
I mean, we're seeing that unfold. What was interesting today on that video I sent you with that finance panel.
Yeah, that was a congressional panel, right?
Right. And they were really, they were focused on, one, what is it? And then two, how are people staying anonymous on it? And I was blown away. That one guy, Dr. Mitchell, he's a huge advocate of Bitcoin in general. And it was great to have him on the panel.
Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle. Yeah, that's what they would call him, Michelle. I don't know if it was Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't know if they're making fun of him or like.
So, yeah, I did whatever. Dr. Michelle. he was backing it up, and I really wish he pounced on the first congressman, the chairman, when he was bringing up, well, you have China and Vietnam banning it outright, and then you have countries like Malta supporting it, and he just completely bypassed the biggest country supporting it, Japan, where they made it a currency. And I was hoping someone would just add that in so that there's actual like legitimacy to it beyond them thinking like, oh, some small country is just kind of saying that it works out. It's proven on such a larger scale than that.
Yeah. And that, yeah, I mean, he was the only one basically straight up in support of Bitcoin crypto
Right.
on the panel.
Although,
and it's funny because like he really just came across as the most intelligent guy in the room. At least, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but
yeah, the best was towards the end with that last guy to sit down, where he was like, sorry, I was held up by a vote and I had to speak at some other hearing.
Yeah.
And he went on and had really no point. And then he's like, so, Dr. Michelle, would you care to answer that? And he's like,
what's the question?
What's your question? Like a lot of these guys have no understanding of what it is, especially that Congressman Sherman, who is only for drugs and illegal purposes.
Yeah, that guy, that's scary. I mean, the way he and he basically, he was saying what value proposition or what problem is crypto solving? And he doesn't.
And Pollock was the
nobody really answered that question.
Pollock answered it, but not to hit Sherman. He answered it at the end, and it would have been the perfect answer to Sherman when he was saying, well, it's a way where there's a set rules, set inflation, set this. Like, that's exactly it. You're opting out of what's controlled by the Federal Reserve. Someone should have just said that as.
Right. I mean, I think there's a lot of answers. I think that's the most obvious one. That's the biggest benefit, right?
Right.
It's this new currency that's not controlled by a group of guys that are deciding when they want to lower the interest rate or raise the interest rate or print more money.
Yeah, no one came back with that.
Nobody really nailed that one.
I think Michelle was just like, I can't even waste my time with you. You're an idiot. Let's move on.
I mean, it's kind of like during the advent of the internet, kind of being like, what problem does it solve? Like, we were fine before it existed. Why do we need it now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as obvious as that, but to make that line of argument, like to say, well, what is it even doing? Like, why do we even need it? I think is just a ridiculous argument to make. I mean, it's a lot of technology. When it's invented, you don't really even know what it's going to end up being used for.
Yeah, that to me was like Krugman's comment, equating it to the internet to the fax machine.
Yeah, like when you have the internet of money, like we don't even know what value is going to come. Like it's obviously thousands of things are going to blossom from it. We can't even imagine a fraction of what they're going to be. I mean, it's just a way for money will now be like fluid over the internet.
Yeah, it is pretty wild, especially.
Pretty obvious that that's going to lead to value.
Yeah.
So
you agree? Do you agree with Barry Silbert? The bottom is in.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I really have no reason to say one way or the other. I mean, other than the fact that it appears to be pumping up right now.
Yeah.
I mean, when you zoom out, the pump doesn't look that big.
Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, the way we've called tops and bottoms, when we were betting on it last year, I mean, nobody has any idea.
Yeah, I mean, Tone Vase, our favorite.
Oh my God.
He obviously doesn't think we're there yet.
No, he's still calling for 1,300. He really thinks.
I think he's starting to hedge his bets a little bit, though, right?
He needs to, because he did the same thing. He did this last year, and it almost screwed me. Remember when I went in? I went all in at the price was like 2,800, and I was freaking out. And then we went up to 5K, trying to ban Bitcoin. We started rallying back down to 3K, and Tone Vase, there he goes. Sign up 1,300. If 3K breaks, we're going right to 13.
Yeah,
calling 13 the whole time, saying 3 wasn't going to hold. And I was really tempted to sell when we were at that. Once we went to 2,900, I almost sold, and I would have shot myself. for listening to Tone Vase, so I'll never listen to him again on bottoms. He could keep his 1300.
Tone Vase is so annoying, but I can't help but listen to him all the time.
Yeah, it's fun.
I just hate that he's just so, he calls everything a scam. Like I get, like I was a Bitcoin maximalist too, still am to a degree, but I just don't think it's fair to call everything a scam. Like,
right. Listen, if you're a Bitcoin,
people, there's some legitimate projects out there. People are experimenting. They're working on it. A scam implies that they're trying to rip somebody off, right? Like that they're not even working on technology, that they're just trying to do a money grab.
Right.
Like the people are completely misusing the term scam.
Oh yeah. Well, the way Tone uses it is just a little crazy, but like
the whole ecosystem is taking that, you know, approach. Anybody that's a Bitcoin maximalist just calls anything that's not Bitcoin a scam.
Yeah, which really hurts the cause. Because,
yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, like it's great to be a Bitcoin maximalist. I mean, it's hard not to be when you understand the fundamentals of everything, which is why I think you and I, the only other coin we own but from Bitcoin is Monero. Because when you actually look at the fundamentals, we realize fungibility is a key trait.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't own any Bitcoin, but yeah.
Okay, so you're all Monero. Well, for you, I mean, it literally Monero is Bitcoin. You know, it's
yeah.
what it was set out to be.
Exactly.
I just don't know when Bitcoin will ever get fungibility. I feel like it will happen eventually, just maybe years and years away. And I suck at timing, so I have both. But if you look at like Ripple, sure, Tone should call that a scam all day. They own 60% of the coins. I know there's no mining on it, but it was basically
all right. Ripple was a scam, sure.
Right.
Started by the banks essentially as a way to compete with Bitcoin and be like, that's Bitcoin isn't the real one. This is the real one.
Right. But then Litecoin, I don't have Litecoin. I don't think it should have much value, but I don't see it as a scam at all.
Yeah, I see it as more of a, if you're going to label something a scam, I could start to see how, like, all right, maybe like Charlie Lee was just thinking, how could I make money by,
okay, sure. I could see him thinking that maybe.
Yeah, but that's all right. It's okay to want to make money with the product. I don't think his thought was, let me just make something where I could scam people out of money. I'm not even trying to create new technology. I think he was legitimately trying to create new tech, hoping that his thing got adopted. You know, it's like, it'd be like somebody competing against Facebook and you're calling it a scam because they're trying to compete against something that has the network effect. And, no, it's just a scam.
Right, and he fairly launched it with plenty of notice. I have no problem with Litecoin, and I think what it did with SegWit last year was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, at that one point, we were like literally considering Litecoin as a real competitor.
Yeah, and that was a scary time.
Yeah, that was a scary time.
But you know, I mean, I thought it was great too, especially when he can navigate all the political pitfalls, all the infighting, get the miners to just adopt it on Litecoin. Probably told them, listen, Litecoin's never going to replace Bitcoin. Let's just do it here and make some money on a pump. And of course, it pumped. It went from like $4 to what is it now, 80 something after an 80% reduction. So I think it was great to get SegWit active, but now I'm running out of reasons to why it exists again. I mean, I think
we kind of, right? Even last year, we were just like, it's just a test net.
Oh, yeah. And I think I don't understand why it's holding up so well, but I think Litecoin, maybe its next time to shine might be during this fungibility war. Scalability, it's been settled. The people that want big blocks have left the chain. Everyone else is now sitting tight, waiting for layer 2. But once we have to add fungibility, that's going to be the next battlefront. And, we're in Monero. I could see Litecoin trying to adopt like Mimblewimble and all that other technology Maxwell is, looking to add to, core. But
but the thing is, Monero already does it, and it's been doing it for a long time.
Well, what I'm interested
in, the war has already been won, so it's just going to be arguments of them saying they're going to get there. We're already here, so I don't really get how you beat it.
Yeah, that is true. I wonder what Charlie Lee is going to say when he's like, we need to add Mimblewimble and all this other stuff.
Because Monero doesn't scale, I guess, is the argument.
Well, with bulletproofs look like they're going to come out in the next release now.
Yeah.
And so that's what, an 80% reduction in data size per transaction. That's wild. So I mean, Mimblewimble is still cheaper somehow, but I got to look at that. Do you know the difference between Mimblewimble and Ring CT? Maybe I'll have that for the next episode.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the details on that. You're the tech guy.
Yeah, I'll take a
But
look at the differences.
yeah, the thing about bulletproofs too, what I find promising is one that it actually is reducing, transaction sizes, right, by 80% or something, right? Is that?
Yeah.
And then two, I feel like that's just proof that there's more to come in terms of improvement of efficiency. Like it is possible to make these improvements. Like,
Right.
so the argument that Monero can't scale is just being disproved because it's scaling. I mean, and it's living up to. It's not like everybody's banging down the door to go buy Monero today. So I mean, it's scaling proportional to the demand.
Right. Plus, it has. I mean, it's dynamic block size. I think what's interesting too is everybody. It's a different issue than on Bitcoin. In that, Monero with its dynamic block sizes, we don't have to worry about block size. All we have to focus on is bandwidth for transactions. And with bulletproofs, with Schnorr signatures, I mean, especially at this adoption rate, I don't see how that won't keep up. And I think anyone would be hard pressed to say that Monero is going to start running into that upper bound at some point, especially with them working now on Lightning integration into Monero, using Tari. It's going to be really interesting. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I mean, Lightning wouldn't that just save the day? It's just a matter of how far down the road is Lightning for Monero. I mean, it's hard to gauge that. I would love to. That'd be a good show too, to talk to people about that, like about the actual tech, and try to figure out where we're at and where we're headed. Like, is Lightning being added to Monero? Is that a real thing that's going to happen? And is that something that's like years and years away, or are we talking like, a year away?
I would say probably a year away, considering now they have paid people working on it. It's kind of funny. I wanted to like tweet blast Riccardo Spagni because, he was always knocking everybody like, oh, the Ethereum Foundation, I'm going to start the Monero Alliance, all this stuff. And then, he went and started Tari. It's legitimate, but it really is essentially going to be the Monero Alliance. I mean, he's building up a team of paid people to now work on it. They're not going to have impact over which way the chain goes directly, but I mean, if they want to move the chain a certain way, I can't imagine anybody saying, no, let's not do that.
Yeah, well, that's like Blockstream, right? Or like
it's more like Vitalik, I guess, and that's not a bad thing.
It's like Blockstream. I see it more like a Blockstream.
Well, yeah. I mean, Blockstream doesn't contribute too much to core nowadays, like it's more like, and a lot of people focus on Blockstream because they have like Liquid as a side chain and they do some marketing, but like Chain Code Labs is probably the biggest contributor to core for like the last 2 years. And that's what I love about Bitcoin too, is that we don't even know the main people working on it anymore. Like everyone focuses on Blockstream, especially the Bcachers.
Right.
They're not the ones driving the ship anymore.
Right. Yeah, no, but I mean, that's just a natural next stage. The fact that you have now these companies that are forming to build the next layers of technology on top of the original protocol. I mean, if that didn't happen, that would be a problem.
Oh,
absolutely.
The fact that
it is happening is a good thing. So.
Well, and he's already been very clear that there won't be an ICO. He's choosing a very different path which is a very respectable path. I mean, if you just pretend he never bought $1 million watch, he's got a great edge.
But that is like the Blockstreams though, right? Like they didn't do ICOs; they got venture capital funding, or these other Bitcoin companies that are building technology.
Like Lightning Labs, they raised $2 million. That's it. You have ICOs in the billions with no product,
right?
And they're going to build with $2 million.
Yep. But then, so back to regulation because we completely went off the topic. But what was I going to say? Oh, an interesting thing. They started to discuss like FedCoin in that video.
Today's video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of scary.
It is really funny. And somebody touched on it. It was probably Michelle again. I mean, but it makes no sense to have a central authority trying to issue something on a blockchain. And I don't think
Well, they were saying, well, they were, some of them were describing it as, well, then you don't even need the blockchain and you don't need proof of work. It's basically just
someone said on the panel.
It's FedCoin. It's just, you know, digital dollars that are swappable for regular cash, where the government controls the supply. So it's basically what we already have, but just in digital form. And the fact, and you don't even need proof of work.
It's a data. They literally were like, why don't we just make a database with the Federal Reserve? And then they were talking about how people can literally go directly to the Fed then and bypass, you know, other banks and create this. It's like they went so far off topic from what blockchain is and why you'd want it.
Right.
It just went right back to the problems that they created in the first place. Except now it's digitized.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to watch them squirm, because I mean, you know, it's just like the bankers and everybody like trying to come up with last ditch efforts to argue against Bitcoin.
Well,
it's like, well, we could do everything. We don't even need proof of work. Like, why are you wasting all that electricity? It's just amazing how it's like you got to wonder, are they? I don't know. I mean, they're really smart, right? Like, they're not. These people aren't idiots.
Well, I'm wondering if they have good sources of information. I mean, to really understand Bitcoin, you kind of have to live through it, you know, like anybody that read like Mastering Bitcoin, it probably didn't, you know, click until you went through like the UASF and you saw how like a community even made miners support, like miners are supposed to drive the chain, but the UASF really forced that out of their hands, which, you know, it's like all game theory and stuff. You got to live through it to really understand it all. Not just how it works, but how like the dynamics behind it and how like no one controls it. And I don't think they like that very much.
Right. They don't like it very much. But like that's so that guy, Mr. Sherman, when he's making all his arguments and he's like, well, what do you even need it for? What's it even doing? Like, is that actually what he believes, or is he just making arguments to support his cause? Like, I'm just curious. I would just love to know what's like really going through his head.
He seemed genuine. I just think he was horribly misinformed.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think he has anybody that understands Bitcoin in his social circle. You know, he probably spent like, you know, he sees the highlights of all these drug rings getting busted using Bitcoin and doesn't see anything positive, just sees speculation and illicit activity. He's like, why do we have it?
But it's like he lived through the internet, right? I mean, the internet was initially used for like strictly porn and like illegal activity, and obviously a lot of positive things grew out of it.
But I mean,
now it's predominantly legal things that happen on the internet. Versus illegal things.
Well, and they touched on that, you know, like we can't, like terrorists use planes, cars, buses, or we can't just ban things because some people use it the wrong way.
Right.
Like, thank God somebody spoke up. I mean, but, you know, again, like Sherman, I think he was genuine, just not surrounded by the right people or didn't take the time to actually understand what Bitcoin is. I can understand why they would all want to fight it, but there are better arguments against it than just, oh, it's only used for drugs. I mean.
Yeah, I know. That's like an old school argument. Well, what are the great arguments against it?
Arguments against Bitcoin. I mean, they could try to say, they could go with the nothing's backing it argument, you know, and try to say we have to protect protect investors and just hammer it to death with regulation.
Right, because it could lead to some major disaster where it just collapses.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
When the whole world starts running on it and then everybody realizes nothing's backing it and everybody pulls out, then it'll be like a super financial crisis.
So they could try to spin that, you know, and tons of people will just destroy them like in the know. But I mean, that's an argument you could make, and it's hard. It takes work, literally proof of work, to try to argue against it.
Right. I mean, all their arguments are like they're looking out for us. They're looking out for the people.
Yeah, just go ahead and buy a lottery ticket. You can spend $1 million on lotto, but you got to watch out for you.
Yeah, we don't want to support terrorism, tax evaders, people selling drugs.
Now, So yeah, tax evasion. You know, it's kind of funny. Like they think Bitcoin's probably the worst thing for tax evasion.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't really get into the weeds with how transparent Bitcoin is and how it's actually, a public ledger that will make it pretty much impossible to do those types of things. Granted, you have things like Monero, but you would think they would use Bitcoin to start to make those arguments as positive reasons for crypto.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know the chairman even said it in the beginning. He called it a public ledger, public distributed ledger, but I really don't think they understand. Not only is it public, but it's not anonymous. It's pseudo anonymous, and they have a very easy time monitoring these exchanges. You know, in the on and off ramps.
Yeah, but we definitely are getting like we're reaching that point where everybody's starting to understand that Bitcoin is, not anonymous. It's amazing that it took this long for people to understand that. Like it didn't really even hit me. It takes, for whatever reason, it takes a while to realize, even though it's called a public ledger, that it's all right. It's actually this thing that's completely public that anybody could access and view. And people don't really realize what that means. Like they don't realize it's essentially Venmo on steroids for potentially the entire world, where you can see everybody's transactions for everything.
Forever.
Yeah, but I think we're finally reaching the point in time where people are starting to realize that. And then you have these regulators who are looking at this and like, well, all right, so now the real problem is these anonymous ones. So you're really starting to see this separation. And I don't know where we're going with this. I mean, you think regulations are going to come down on anonymous coins?
I think if once they start to understand, I mean, I think they would be too hesitant to just start trying to dismantle Bitcoin, and that'll force them to actually educate themselves on what blockchain is, how Bitcoin works, why it is so popular, and then yeah, I think they'll realize, you know what, Monero, Zcash. Maybe not Zcash so much. They'll say you could use Zcash, just never shield your transactions, or we'll freeze the wallet you sent it from, or we'll come after you. But
right, makes no sense.
yeah, and for Monero, it breaks a lot of current financial laws. But again, until people start accepting it on a wide scale, they could just monitor the on and off ramps. So it's a double-edged sword. As we get more adoption, we'll get more attention. And then I think they would try to, come down on it.
And come down on it. So you think they would just regulate the on ramps and the off ramps?
I mean, yeah,
that's really the way they can come down on it.
I mean, until Kovri's released, they can tell who's running nodes on the network, and stuff like that. They could potentially try to shut down running a node. They could maybe ban it that way as well. Like if you have a node, you got to turn it off by, January 1st, we're banning Monero, or like China did. I would be a little worried of that, especially because, of all the hype with North Korea side skirting sanctions and blah, blah, blah. They could probably have an argument where they'd bundle it up and say, oh, terrorists are using this and we can't track them. We can with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's fine, but Zcash and Monero are dead.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just obviously biased, but I can't help but always just see the bullish arguments, like for Monero. Like even if we assume that it's going to get regulated, that almost seems like a good thing, because it's like literally proving that Monero is the one coin that's doing what all these coins are supposed to be able to do.
Yeah, plus
so it's like the best evidence ever that this is the coin that is censorship resistant, that is actually fungible. This is the one we have to worry about. Meaning this is the one that works and the others don't. So while it may lead to like some dark period because it will technically be difficult to get fiat into it, overall, I think what it could do is push like these the people that are actually building this stuff, the coders and the cryptographers, kind of rally them behind the true crypto coin. That's the bullish argument I see. And then
could be. I mean, you could add to the bullish argument and say, maybe, especially from what we've seen, like the FBI is pretty educated on blockchain, and they've been tracing, as much as they can, doing blockchain analysis. They might suggest, banning it outright in the US would just make them blind to what's going on. They'd probably prefer it not to be banned, gather as much info on, exchanges using it, follow transactions off exchanges where you can't, you have to disclose the view key to the wallet you're sending it to off the exchange. This way they could try to do blockchain analysis on Monero. I mean, maybe they wouldn't want to ban it. Maybe they would actually encourage adoption here to help try to route payments, try to analyze the chain over.
Oh, it was like a honeypot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine, because if they did ban it, all they could do is they could stop you from getting your fiat and exchanging it into Monero, right? Like, that's the easiest thing they can do. They can make it really hard for you to get Monero. But now we have like these decentralized exchanges that are coming about, right? I mean, that's a real thing. That's not theoretical. They already exist. They're going to get better and better, and it's going to become the point where that's what everybody's using. So as long as you can get Bitcoin, Monero will just be a click away.
Yeah, that's true. Especially, once they get, like, decentralized exchanges are great. Kovri, though, will really be the biggest step towards just being unstoppable. Right,
because then you're saying that people can...
You can run your node. You can run everything. The blockchain will just run. You could mine it on I2P. And they won't know where you're mining from. They won't.
Why? Like, governments are gonna like start like breaking down doors and be like, you're running a Monero node.
I mean, they could. I'm just saying. Like, do I see that happening? No, unless Monero really gains serious adoption, where it was like $100, $200 billion, giant black hole where they're just like, we can't collect tax on it. We have no idea who's using this stuff. And it'll just drive them nuts.
Because I think that's a perfect example of something that would like rally people, right? Just imagine that news story, like people getting raided and their miners getting taken away, and like now you're getting into the whole freedom of speech thing. You're like you'll rally up a larger portion of the population when they start. People will be like, wait a minute, why are governments not allowing people to run some computer code? I mean, that doesn't seem right. It's supposed to be America. I don't know, like, if they would go, I can't imagine the government would start to go down that road unless they're like, wow, it's really being used to skirt sanctions, or like, terrorists are being funded by this. And,
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they wouldn't have to try to ban it or stop nodes. They would just keep exchanges from offering it, And
that would be the first thing that would be the easiest thing for them to do. And like I said, but is that really effective?
No, I mean, listen, you can't stop Monero at this point. Literally, you need consensus that this is a bad thing, and everyone turn your stuff off, please.
Right.
It's not stoppable. They could dent the price, like China did, from 5 to 3K when they banned it last year. But that's temporary, and then people realize, like, oh, well, who needs China? A lot of fake volume out of there anyway. Forget it. So the same thing would eventually happen. You just have to weather that storm.
Crazy times.
Oh yeah. So next, you know what we should do? What I want to do? I want to do a movie, like a movie 3000 approach, where we.
I was thinking that too.
We'll play a video like that panel discussion, and then just pause it after they say stupid things, and actually fill people watching this in on why it's stupid what they're saying.
Do we know how to do that?
Sure. Yeah, we could set that up. I mean, you could screen share and just play the video. And then pause, play and pause, play and pause. People won't get to see, your pretty mug, but they'll get the video.
Yeah, no, we should definitely do that. Let's do that next time.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Wait, there was one other thing I want to talk about. You see this tweet somebody sent out? I don't know if it was an article that was written.
The journalist getting scammed in the Ethereum giveaway.
No, it was the Monero one about the Monero network hash rate. and how it's been affected since essentially ASICs have been booted and the proof of work algorithm has changed.
Right, right. What's
See
it say?
that pie chart? It was pretty interesting.
Does it show? Obviously, it should show a lot less centralization.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's showing. So
That's awesome.
it's nice to see it working.
Yeah, I thought that was a great convo we had. Like, what was it? Maybe a month ago. At this point, who knows? Maybe it was 10 years ago. How Bitcoin, even though the community is growing, its mining is getting more and more centralized, and it's not leading towards decentralization. And that's a really odd outcome. Like, you wouldn't expect that. You'd think more people would dive into the mining sphere, and they would, end up decentralizing the entire mining community. But you're just watching Bitmain just gobble people up and take over.
Wait, you're saying you thought, what did you think was going to happen?
I would have thought as Bitcoin grew in adoption, you'd also have large companies jumping in on the mining side of things and balance out Bitmain's operation. But you're seeing the opposite happen, where they're literally cornering the entire mining market. You're not seeing more decentralization in Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how monopolies happen, right? With any like tech, like that, right? I mean,
yeah, they just have such a huge head start.
Yeah. So they have the head start, so it makes that just become stronger and stronger. So it kind of makes sense. I mean, the only argument is, I guess, eventually, right? Aren't they saying like when ASICs will kind of like level out, right? In how much improvement you'll be making year to year over the previous version ASIC, right?
Right. Yeah, I forget what law that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, essentially Moore's law. So as we approach that, which supposedly we are, then it becomes more of a commodity, and you can't really compete as much. So then any company can start to just pump out ASICs as well. I mean, that's the argument that's being made. I don't know if I buy that too. I mean, I don't know if that's kind of a law of economics that people are, but it doesn't seem. The fact is, it's becoming more centralized now.
Yeah, and that to me was very counterintuitive.
Right. So like they're banking on some hypothetical situation where in the future it may start to become more decentralized, which I don't know if I believe that forecast. It's like, why not try to become more decentralized today, which is what Monero did.
Right. Yeah, well, I think switching proof of work every 6 months is a great idea. Look at what I like doing is I look at Monero Original, see if anybody was insane enough to keep, on that chain. Still has hash rate, still has, like it's dropped to like 20 grand a day volume. I think people have realized like you don't need insanely high security. Like Bitcoin has more security than it would ever need right now.
Right.
And it's continuing to climb. So, I just would you recommend the switch on the proof of work algo for Bitcoin or no? I think that would be
no, only because I'm all Monero and let them go down in flames. No, honestly, like it seems like a big problem. It seems like a huge problem. I mean, and this is just another example of the narrow maximalist kind of like just watching them contort arguments to work around things. Like, oh, well, it's not, ASICs are a problem now, but they won't be in the future. But it's a huge problem right now. Like the whole point of this is to have this decentralization so things are censorship resistant. If it's essentially like 5 guys around the world that are running all the mining farms, it's not decentralized, right?
Not at all. Well, I thought there was some
talk about a worst case scenario. Like, can't you have like the government essentially like tap these guys on the shoulder and be like, you work for us now, essentially, like.
Well, see, it's funny. All right, so there's 2 things I'd want to say on that point. One, it's kind of that's like what I would be worried about if I owned Bcash, where they're like, who cares? You don't need full nodes. We can just rely on a few people to run the chain. Like they're literally all for decentralization via bandwidth constraints and blockchain bloat. The other thing I'd say is that guy, the Blue Matt, what's his name, Rollo on Twitter.
Yeah,
he had a great solution where you would just you would join a mining pool, but you would run the software yourself. And so one pool operator doesn't control 50,000 people mining. You see what I'm saying? You know, and so that would be one way to avoid, you know, lowering the risk of a 51% attack, which I thought was really cool.
I'm trying to do screen share. What is it doing?
I see 80 screens right now.
Yeah, why is it doing that?
It's like, you ever played Doom back in the day? Whenever.
How about now? Now do you just see
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, here was the chart, the pie chart of Monero network hash rate before proof of work change.
That was us right there, man, in the small pools.
And then after, seems to be working pretty damn well.
Wow. Oh, hell yeah. See
but
you later.
I think that's a doomsday scenario too. For like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's a huge problem, right? Like, look at like AT&T, right? Like, they became this huge utility that provides, or Verizon, right? Like, you're telling me that the NSA doesn't have a good relationship with AT&T and Verizon?
Yeah, that's scary.
So what's the difference between that and, you know, that these guys knocking on the door of the five guys that essentially control all the mining in Bitcoin?
Especially with 80% being in China, their government, you know, they have no problem knocking.
Right, nobody's going to say no. They're super wealthy.
Yeah,
like the only thing they don't have is the guns and power of a government. So they're not going to like throw it away and be like, no, we're Bitcoin and we're decentralized. They're going to roll over in a second.
Oh, absolutely.
If they're like, yeah, no, don't worry, keep doing what you're doing. Just if we ever need you, we're going to give you a call.
So,
I mean, that's the reason why this whole thing was invented.
Yeah.
Proof of work. That's what, like, so I just think it's a tremendous issue. And once again, it's another check mark in the plus column for Monero because they're doing it right.
I think Spagni, while he's the biggest troll, you know, in crypto, I think he's got to be one of the sharpest guys in crypto. I mean,
yeah, he really is.
You know, he's on top of it. He sees what works, what doesn't, and you know, he's a cypherpunk.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean, we met him at the party at the New York thing.
Yeah.
I've in person got a good vibe from him. Like he's really in it for.
Yeah, it was weird that he was handing out vibes to people, but you know, he's a troll. But all right, so listen, why don't we'll leave it there, and then I guess next episode we could talk about either privacy coins in general, Monero, Zcash, maybe get Verge Chick.
Nice, get Verge Chick on here.
You think?
Yeah, what's that?
You think she realizes Verge was a fluke? Or you think she's
no, remember she changed her mind. Eventually she was like, she was a Monero person now. Were you there when she said?
No.
After the party, she came up to us. She's like, I like Monero now.
There you go. How can you not? All right, cool, man.
All right, man. So where do you see Monero going right now with this Bitcoin pump?
You know, we took a really small dip. I don't know if it was maybe from today's conference. Maybe people are thinking. I think the only two threats to Monero right now, as far as price goes, is the potential for regulation might keep people a little afraid. And, you know, now that Grin's launching, maybe people think that might be something to look at. But, you know, to me, I only go for the stuff that's proven and tested. You know?
That's what we should do. We should do an episode on Grin too. I mean, if we can. I mean,
on.
When is it launching?
I got to look into all the details. I haven't kept tabs on it.
That's going to be pumped like to no end.
Yeah, that's going to get pumped really high, especially because they're really trying to sell the whole fair launch. You know, they're announcing the date way ahead of time. They'll release the mining algo, no pre-sale.
Yeah, like even the Bitcoin maximalists are like giving it kind of a pass.
Yeah, for now, until it grows like Monero. Then
right, exactly. They see it as like, all right, well, we missed out on Monero, so let's be pro-Grin.
Very true.
But whatever.
All right, man. I'll text you. We'll try to figure out another time.
Sounds good. Later.
All right, see you.
Peace.